Right, like a block up from Montauk Highway.
Myself as well.
Um, yeah, like by the Dunkin' Donuts on Montauk. That's my block.
Okay, the McDonald's dish over there.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm like right behind the Aldi's and the LA Fitness, whatever that is.
Uh-huh.
It's convenient.
Yeah.
So you did not grow up in Lindenhurst, though.
No.
Yeah, so just give us a little background on you, like, growing up and like what got you interested in what you eventually came to do for a living.
Sure. So I my half my childhood was spent in Brooklyn. And then I moved to Long Beach. Um, Went to like Long Beach High School and stuff. Spent most of my time there. Um, I grew up in like the hardcore scene, so it kind of took me all over Long Island. Like I had friends all the way out in like Ronkonkoma, so I was always like around everything. Um, but I never knew Lindenhurst until I started looking for a house 6 years ago, and that's when we found Little Lindenhurst. But yeah, I don't know. What got me to open a brick and mortar here? I worked in the city for 10 years doing hair. Um, I travel a lot, and one of my favorite things to do whilst traveling is to visit any local oddity stores, stuff like that. I'm a big collector. I mean, you can't see, but my house is insane,
Yeah.
and there's lots of taxidermy. Hold on, my dog wants to come in. Um, so yeah, I've been collecting horror toys and oddities for 15 years. I was commuting to the city for a long time, doing hair, and I just always wanted to have my own space. So that's kind of what brought on what I what I decided to open. I feel like COVID had a lot to do with it, being trapped in the house and wanting to have a ridiculous time-consuming project. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I've always been really interested in bringing stuff that you kind of see all over the country to uh, the East Coast, but primarily Long Island, because I feel like there is a community for, like-minded individuals here, but there's not really a place to kind of bring them together. You have it in the city, kind of. You know, you can't really throw a rock in like half of Brooklyn without hitting into 15 people who look like me. But Long Island's not as
A little different, yeah.
yeah, there's a big difference between, hanging out in the city and being out here. And, I feel like I always was kind of looking for um, like adults that um I don't know how to say this. I don't know, that were alternative and not really the status quo. That Long Island kind of, wants you to believe that it's only, you know, I don't know, people interested in lawn care and having two
Right.
pickup trucks. um, but yeah, I don't know. I guess that's kind of what prompted me wanting to do it here instead of New York.
So just bringing it back, what part of Brooklyn were you born in?
Um, I was born in Maimonides, but I was raised mostly in Marine Park and Manhattan Beach.
So real Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Still real Brooklyn.
Yeah, it looks exactly the same. Yeah, I went to PS 195 in Manhattan Beach, and yeah, I don't know.
And at what age did you come to Long Island?
10, right before middle school kind of thing.
And you said you grew up in the hardcore scene, just like us.
Yeah.
So at what age and like what were the first shows you were going to and like who was getting you into it at the time?
Um, Long Beach, there was kind of um an older crowd that was into it. They were like, I don't know, probably 10 years older than me. And I don't know. I found metal pretty young.
Hmm.
Um, like I was really into like Kitty and Slayer and like dorky new metal. I don't know. I get it was Glassjaw is probably the first thing I ever got my hands on. And I want to say it was just like dumb luck.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it was watching like Ginger Snaps for the first time and being like, what the hell is that song?
Yeah.
Or someone
That had
just
a pretty good soundtrack, that movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I was really good in the like late 90s, early aughts of like, you know, like I would buy CDs that looked cool, and then if I liked them, I would go through the like thank yous and then go buy those CDs.
That's how it was done back in the day. Yep.
Yeah,
Of
yeah,
course,
exactly. Like
Pre-internet. Yeah.
but I don't know, like you know, and obviously I liked emo a lot. Like it was definitely like a big ecstatic lullaby Finch phase that kind of tied it all in. I don't know. I started going to shows at the downtown. That's probably the first hardcore show I went to.
Also a great band from Long Beach called Cypher, who are around
Mhm.
forever.
I know all those kids.
Yeah.
One of the band members who passed away, God, I don't know, 10, it's not 10 years. It might be 10 years, was my high school teacher.
Yeah, Danny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
R.I.P.
yeah, I grew up with those kids. They're most of them are a couple years younger than me, but I've known them for years, and there was like a little Long Beach scene. I feel like it wasn't really like it was younger than me and then older than me. There wasn't like a lot of kids in my like grade or few grades that were that into it.
There were a few venues down that way in like Island Park, Oceanside area. There was one called the C Note Cafe, and there was one called Industry as well, both on like Long Beach Road or whatever that road is. That
Right.
might have been a little before your time.
I was
but
gonna say, I'm like,
yeah.
I don't even think I lived in Long Island
Probably not. Yeah.
when those were open.
I'm dating myself here, but
Yeah.
They did have shows at Malibu too at one point, like that beach club place right there.
Yeah, I knew what Malibu was because my mom would drive out from Brooklyn to go to dance nights there
Right.
and New Wave, but all of those things didn't really weren't really happening when I was
right
there.
Cool. So let's talk about like some first jobs growing up, like in high
It's
school.
yeah, it's mostly pretty boring because all I've ever done was hair for the most part. Like there was a summer I worked at Ralph's, and then I worked at a dog grooming salon for like all through high school, and then salons. Hair is all I've really known.
And that led you to go work in the city.
I mean, I moved away for a long time. I bopped around. But I don't even know how many salons I worked at before I ended up out there. But yeah, I worked at Hair Metal for like 4 years, and then I worked at a little cute salon in Williamsburg for almost 5 before I did this. But yeah.
Okay. And you said you came to Lyndhurst about 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So what prompted that move, and were you just like generally looking for a house somewhere to settle down?
Yeah, pretty much. I've been renting, at that point I've been renting 11 years, and I have a kid, so I just didn't have great landlord success. Just always kind of feeling like, not having stability. And my partner and I were looking for, an affordable house on the South Shore that was considerable for my commute. Nothing more than like an hour with no traffic to Brooklyn. Because that was Long Beach. Even though Long Beach is so far from Lindenhurst, it's so south that it was like 55 minutes. But yeah, I don't know. We were looking in like kind of mostly Suffolk, Amityville, Babylon, Lindenhurst, Islip kind of vibe. And I don't know, we kind of landed on Lindenhurst. I don't even know what prompted it. I just liked it was small and quiet.
Yeah, Lindenhurst was one of the last holdouts for like, I don't know, quote unquote gentrification on the island. Like,
oh yeah.
The downtown was kind of a wasteland for a long time, but real estate was cheap. So
yeah,
eventually people caught on, and that's why now the village is just finally growing. So you got in at the perfect time, I think.
Oh, I do. I definitely know that. I remember watching Holy Black open and going, if I don't do it now, I'm going to regret it. And yeah, I don't know. It was a bit of a whirlwind.
So what was the process like of finding the space?
So I believe it was like February 25th of last year. Sorry, I just turned my oven on. That I texted my best friend and I said, hey, would it be totally insane to open an oddities parlor on Long Island? And she went, no, I think that's the best idea you've ever had. So I called my realtor like 5 minutes later. She sent me a bunch of listings and there happened to be that one. I went to see it, I think the next day, and I signed a lease in a week.
Wow.
Yeah. I saw one other place in Babylon, but they were asking like double. And I was like, I don't need you, Babylon.
Very cool. So like the initial kind of like inventory that you had there, was that just stuff that you collected over the years and was just
not at all.
Or,
no. Yeah. I definitely put like boots on the ground really, really quickly. I have a lot of small businesses that I already supported and I had built a friendship with over the years. If they weren't initially my friends, I made them my friends. And started just reaching out to makers and was like, hey, like I'm doing this, do you do wholesale? Do you want to work with me? Do you want to make stuff for here? There was definitely like, it seems silly, but like I had like three main things that I've fallen in love with over the years. Bat's Breath Candles is a big one. I've loved her and supported her for pretty much since the inception of her candle business. And I really wanted to have that in the shop. And she was on board. Pretty much everybody I reached out to was like, full steam ahead with getting me products. Because I pretty much had from March 10th to build out the space. I opened like mid-June. So like just I traveled a bit in that time too and was going to like horror conventions and oddity parlors. I mean, from New York to Texas. And just anything I found that I liked, I was like, hey, are you interested in doing this? Or do you know who does this? Just learned a lot really, really, really fast. And got a pretty great curation of artists and makers in the shop really fast. And the taxidermy stuff, kind of a same vibe. Like a lot of it was mostly curation. I'm really only interested in antique works. So it was going to the Midwest a lot, reaching out to, taxidermists that were closing doors or had connections. So yeah, none of it was mine. Actually, some of it I found and kept, but none of it was mine initially.
And the taxidermy, that's for sale in the shop, or is that just?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah, we have a lot of large to small specimens. I also taught myself a lot of taxidermy and bug pinning and dry freezing and a bunch of different stuff in the last year and a half. So a lot of it in there I also make.
I'm assuming you made fast friends with the Holy Black once you saw what they're kind of all about and the inside of their bathroom with all the taxidermy stuff there.
So I definitely went and introduced myself, but my husband like works on their cars and stuff. So we kind of knew who each other were already.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I mean, like that's kind of what prompted like, oh, if this like, kind of cool, kind of kitschy vibe can exist here and be successful, because they already had like a company behind them that they've been doing at a Lindenhurst. Right. I was like, if this can work and the town is at least somewhat supportive of them, I can do this.
Right.
And I was going to ask, as far as like the horror conventions go, are you going to conventions as a vendor and setting up shop? So
I was really trying. so not really horror conventions because like I'm not a maker
Right.
of that. Um, um, like if I made my own horror shirts and like apparel or horror art of some degree, I definitely would, but because I carry mostly other people's stuff, I don't do the horror convention circuit. But that is how I found a lot of my makers over the years. But initially when I first opened, I kind of just did stuff in Long Island, trying to get as much reach as I could. Like I did the Lindenhurst a bit. I worked with oh, I forgot her name. Um, but like vending stuff in Long Island, try to get my name out there. But recently, um, I am looking to expand. Like I have an event. I haven't posted about it, but I have an event coming up that I'm gonna do up in Albany. That's like an oddities flea market. I'm gonna do one in Brooklyn in the end of May. But yeah, I mean like the specific the oddities flea market that kind of tours all over the US is just really expensive and I don't
Yeah.
feel the need to do it.
Gotcha. And I know like the location you're in, it's pretty good for foot traffic, but it's not, it's not on Wellwood Avenue. So it's not like, the greatest spot for that. So are people traveling to come to you? Like, are you,
Yeah, so
because they saw you on social media or whatever?
yeah, my knowing what I know about oddity stores in general through the US, we do not rely on foot traffic. Your everyday man walking down the street, regardless of where you are,
Yeah.
isn't going to be it is less likely to be your target audience. So as soon as I could, I knew my online marketing had to be strong and I had to have that kind of reach because we're already getting people. I had people come from upstate New York. I've had people come from Connecticut, New Jersey, drive out from Queens, Manhattan, the Bronx, just to come visit the store already. And we're not even open a year. Even like my online campaigns, like I do like mystery boxes and like I don't sell a lot online, but I do sell a bit. Um, and I'm getting orders from, Ohio, California, Virginia. Um, so I'm definitely getting a pretty big reach already.
And yeah, we were speaking about Holy Black. Any other businesses in town that you've been really tight with as far as just communicating with the owners and kind of sharing ideas?
Believe it or not, I am completely obsessed with the owner of Rumors, which is right next door. Um, I'm obsessed with her. She's awesome. She has probably been um like one of the most supportive pillars that I've had in this whole town. We
She used to be in Babylon,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I didn't know her before she was my neighbor, but she's awesome. We bounce ideas off each other a lot. We support each other a lot. It's really cool to have her as my neighbor. I'm also friends with Ruby Soho from shows, really. And
Right.
they're great to have like in the town, especially like being kind of more of an alternative place. And Sand City's been pretty awesome.
Yeah.
They're super supportive and we've made good friends with each other in the last year. I've been doing events there and stuff like that pretty much since I opened actually, but it's been cool to work with them. um I mean, for the most part the town's pretty like the businesses of the town, um everybody's like pretty cool and it kind of feels like we're always like all in this together, which is awesome.
Has there been any blowback or anything from your residents or businesses? Just kind of like, what the hell is this?
um Outside of like just people saying kind of stupid stuff to me,
Right.
no, I mean like I know the town itself and the chamber like kind of I get the side glance like, oh, okay, like you know.
Mhm.
And I knew what I was doing when I opened, but like for the most part, everyone leaves me alone. And it's a kind of place like if you know, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you don't, you don't.
We've talked about this on a
Yeah.
past episode too. Like growing up, there were a lot of like weird little junker shops that would pop up in Lindenhurst and just like come and go. And it'd be some like middle-aged person who chain smokes and like,
Yeah.
sells
Mhm.
records and tapes and old t-shirts and stuff. And I think in fact, like in the very spot that you were in, there was some lady who had a junker shop there and I used to buy cassettes off of her. So, there is some tradition of that type of thing going on, but you're much more legit than those
Well,
people.
yeah. I play really well that I'm legit, but I don't know what I'm doing.
You got to fake it till you make it, right?
That's all I've been doing.
What was in the space prior to you moving in there, or was it vacant when
It
you moved
was
in?
vacant, but as far as I know, it was a vape store.
Oh,
That's
that
right.
sounds
Yeah.
about right.
Um, so obviously I gutted it. Um, I started with concrete walls, floors, and a drop ceiling with no tiles in it. Um, but the whole outside facade was done by my landlord. So when I first saw it, it almost rendered like I don't even know, like a really crappy apartment building. Like the whole outside was like bad
It's
stonework.
kind of what a lot of those buildings in Lindenhurst look like.
Yeah,
They've been there forever and nothing's really changed.
yeah. So it's cool to have like, it's not technically a new build or anything, but it feels like one. Um, and because it was probably, I think it was vacant through all of COVID before I took it, if not longer. So like,
Right.
I didn't really get like business confusion, which was cool.
Hmm.
Like no one walked in thinking it was a vape store, where they're like,
Yeah.
where is, vape world, whatever it was. So it's cool to have a place that like feels brand new. Um, and I definitely got to build up from the ground up.
Yeah, I've only been in your store once with our mutual friend Christy, who you
She's a funeral director. Yes,
yes,
I love her.
she's the best. Shout outs to Christy, but store is gorgeous on the
Thank you.
inside. Like you would have never. Very very welcome. Very impressed with the way it looks in there. Anyone who hasn't been in there, it's definitely worth checking out because most interesting looking store in Lindenhurst.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those places that like even if you're not into it, and I feel like people walk in with like kind of a connotation already, but like we have coffee, we have tea, we have seasoning, like there is something there for
Mm-hmm,
everybody. But a lot of
for sure.
people kind of walk in and they're like, oh, what's this? And they want to like kind of, poke at the bear, if you will. But then they're like,
Uh
oh,
huh.
wait, that ceiling's really cool. And where'd you get that wallpaper? And they're like,
Right.
like where'd you get all this furniture? Like, I feel like it's really funny because like people do kind of want to, I wouldn't say make fun of me,
It's
but like,
it's a curiosity parlor, so it literally like sparks curiosity in people.
yeah, yeah, like,
Not just a clever name.
no, definitely not.
And I know you do like some special events there. So tell us a little about past events and what you might have in store for the future.
Oh, we do so many events.
Yeah.
So, a really big part of why I wanted to open it in the first place was, as I said earlier, to build a community that a lot of people don't feel like has a space for in Long Island, right? Like, you definitely have a hardcore scene, but like outside of that, like there's not really a goth scene. There's not really a horror scene, like not in the sense of like we exist, but there's nowhere to really gather. We don't really come together. Like, what are we all going to meet at Hot Topic? um, so like a big part of that is it's not just a store, it's not just a salon. I want people to feel, home when they're there. So ever since I thought of this, I wanted to have events. Currently, we do a movie night, we do a party night, which is like an after hours hangout, if you will. we started doing burlesque night. We do a trivia night outside of the store. We've been doing it at Sand City recently. And yeah, it's wild. It's wild to watch because I feel like I first started them, I think the first one, other than like our grand opening thing, our first real event where I sold tickets to now, and the first one I think was August. I mean, we're selling them out every single time. Like I have 3 events in May. They're completely sold out. The Lindenhurst Library approached me about doing a book club. They filled up in 2 days that we had to add another date.
Wow.
So it's completely incredible. It's awesome to have, so many. I have a lot of returning guests, to the point now where like they're my friends. It's not, I met them through the store and they're, customers and clients, but like they're, we've cultivated this community so fast. And like every time people come to an event who've either never been to the store or never been to an event before, I feel like every single time people are always blown away by how much effort I put into them. Which is, it's just awesome to like have that kind of feedback every single time. Cause like, it's Long Island. I feel like when you show up to an event of any kind, it always feels like a little, at least sometimes, a little underwhelming, like, oh, I wonder how this is going to pan out. And I feel like I want people to feel like they're home and they're welcome and like everybody's your friend here, and it's really awesome.
Well, it's like you said, if you put the effort in, people are going to recognize that, and
Yeah,
they're going to keep coming back.
I don't know how to not put in the most effort.
So I guess winding down, obviously you're a huge horror movie fan. So just for my curiosity, what are your top 5 horror movies?
Oh my God, that's a crazy question.
I know.
That's a crazy question.
You could just name 5 that you love.
I feel like you can ask me this every day and the answers would be different. But I love kitsch and I love 80s and 90s a lot. So I think this is not in order, but Halloween 3 will always be my end all be all.
Season of the Witch.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love it so much. I'm a huge fan of Frankenhooker, which if you come to my store, you know that. I love High Tension, and that's just it got released on Shudder, and I've been thinking about queer horror because we have June coming up. So I think that's just in the forefront of my brain.
Mm-hmm.
I love Trick or Treat.
Yeah.
I feel like if you don't love Trick or Treat, what's wrong with you? I love a good anthology.
That's the Gene Simmons one, or
no, not.
There's a different Trick or Treat with Gene
Not
Simmons.
Trick or Treat. Trick or Treat.
Right.
Gotcha.
The anthology.
Gotcha. Okay.
I feel like I actually have to pick a good movie for the last one, or I'm uncredible forever. I've been watching so much crap lately. I don't know. Oh, I'll go with The Witch.
I still have not seen that.
It's very, I don't know. It's very cerebral.
Yeah.
And I love a good, Satan.
I heard such mixed reviews about it that I just know.
Yeah, I mean it's a quick watch. It's only 90 minutes, which I love a good short horror movie. I feel like I watch so many that I have my what I want to fall asleep watching to, which I feel like that's the list I just gave you is my comfort horror movies.
Right.
And then I have ones that I think are like actually good.
Gotcha. So I guess we'll wrap it up with the question we ask every guest. If you could describe, since you've been living and working here for a while now, if you could describe Lindenhurst to somebody who's never been there, what would you tell them?
Oh, oh, that's not fair to ask me. That's a crazy question.
Mm-hmm.
we've gotten very different answers from everybody. So
I definitely feel like it is very underrated and it's a hidden gem. And I do feel like the last 5 years specifically have elevated Lindenhurst to the point where we actually rival, any big town in Long Island for sure. I feel like there's great food, there's a great energy here. It's awesome to see so many young people, like young people, millennials.
Yeah.
We're all 30 and 40 now, but
Right.
young people, really able to thrive in Long Island, where I'm sure we all thought that in our 20s, oh, we can't stay here. We'll never be able to afford to do anything.
Yeah.
But it's a great, beautiful town. I grew up really, blue collar, middle class, and I feel like there's not a whole lot left of that vibe in Long Island, and you feel it here,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just let everybody know where they can find you and your shop online.
Sure. So it's Strange Love Parlor on Instagram, on Facebook. We have a website, strangeloveparlor.com. We're on everything on Instagram, Facebook, Yelp, Google. Our hours are always updated if we change them, so you can find us everywhere.
Great. Well, thanks so much for coming on.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for having me.